Blind date at a cafe? The poor girl couldn't afford the bill, but the CEO millionaire said, "It's on me." Before we continue, give a thumbs up, and please tell us where in the world are you watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. The rain hadn't stopped since dawn. It came down hard against the city streets, drumming on umbrellas and pooling along the edges of the sidewalks like the world itself was tired. Inside a small Brooklyn cafe, the warm glow of hanging lights reflected off fogged-up windows, and the smell of fresh espresso filled the air. Emily Carter sat near the counter, clutching a worn-out notebook to her chest. Her phone screen blinked again. No new messages. The client who promised to meet her for a freelance writing job hadn't shown up. Not even a call. Just silence. She looked down at her wallet, half empty, holding only a few crumpled bills and some loose change. The barista called out, "That'll be $8.40, ma'am." Emily forced a small smile and began counting coins, but her fingers froze halfway. She didn't have enough. The guy behind her sighed loudly, shifting his weight, clearly impatient. Her cheeks burned. I, I'm sorry," she muttered. "I might have miscounted." And then a deep voice from the corner spoke up. "Add her drink to mine." Emily turned. Sitting by the window was a man in a dark gray sweater, sleeves rolled up, eyes calm but sharp. His presence was quiet, but something about him felt heavy, like he'd lived through more storms than he cared to admit. The barista nodded, rang it up, and Emily hesitated for a moment before whispering, "You didn't have to do that." The man shrugged, his tone easy, like it was no big deal. "You looked like you needed a break." It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. Soft, steady, without pity. Emily smiled awkwardly, unsure what to say. "Thank you, seriously." He nodded once and went back to his coffee, staring out the window at the rain. Emily sat down a few tables away, still trying to shake the embarrassment. Her hands wrapped around the warm cup like it was the only steady thing left in her day. After a few minutes, she noticed he wasn't scrolling on his phone or reading a laptop like everyone else. He just sat there, quiet, lost in thought. There was something distant about him, but not cold. Maybe lonely. She wondered who he was, what brought him there, and why someone who looked so put together would notice a stranger struggling at a counter. When she finally looked back again, he was gone. The table was empty, except for a folded napkin sitting next to her cup. She frowned, reaching for it. In neat handwriting it read, "Don't let one bad day make you forget how strong you are." Her chest tightened, eyes stinging for reasons she couldn't explain. She looked out the window again, scanning the street, but he had already disappeared into the crowd in the rain. And just like that, Emily Carter didn't realize. This ordinary morning, this small act of kindness, had just set her life on a path that would rewrite everything she thought she knew about love, fate, and second chances. A week later, the rain had cleared, but Emily's life hadn't. She was running on black coffee, missed deadlines, and the constant hum of anxiety that came from juggling two part-time jobs and a dream that felt farther away every day. The cafe moment kept replaying in her head, though. That man's voice, his calm eyes, and the note he left behind. It was ridiculous, she told herself, to keep thinking about a stranger she'd never see again. But still, whenever it rained, she found herself glancing at the door, half expecting him to walk in. That afternoon, her best friend Rachel dragged her to a downtown networking event. Something fancy, filled with people who talked too loudly and smiled too hard. Emily felt completely out of place, wearing a thrift store dress and clutching her notepad like it was armor. "Come on, Em," Rachel whispered. "You've got talent. You just need someone to notice." Easier said than done. Emily stood by the refreshment table, pretending to check her phone while her nerves rattled. Then suddenly she heard a familiar voice, smooth, confident, and calm. Her head snapped up, and her heart nearly stopped. It was him, the same man from the cafe, now wearing a tailored navy suit that fit him like it was made just for him. His posture screamed power, but his expression was humble, thoughtful. He was talking to a small group near the stage, and people were actually listening, hanging on to every word. Rachel noticed Emily's face pale. "Wait, do you know him?" Emily whispered. "He's the guy who paid for my coffee last week." Rachel raised her brows. Girl, that's Richard Hayes, the CEO of Hayes Enterprises. You know, the tech company that's practically buying up half of New York? Emily's stomach flipped. A CEO? She blinked, disbelief washing over her. That quiet man from the cafe, the one who'd scribbled encouragement on a napkin? Was that guy? Before she could run, Rachel shoved her forward. Go! Talk to him. Emily stumbled into his line of sight, and his eyes landed on her. Recognition flickered, followed by the faintest smile. We meet again, he said, his tone playful yet warm. I, uh, yeah, she stammered, laughing nervously. Small world, huh? He chuckled. I guess so. Though I'm glad it brought you here. They talked, first awkwardly, then easily, like two people who somehow skipped the small talk phase. Richard wasn't what she expected. He didn't brag about his company, didn't throw around money or titles. Instead, he asked her about her, what she did, what she wanted to write, why she cared about storytelling. When she told him about struggling to land clients, he just listened. No pity, no fake empathy, just genuine interest. Then as the crowd began to thin, he said quietly, You know, my company's launching a new campaign about real stories. Maybe we could use a voice like yours. Emily blinked, her mouth parting slightly. Wait, are you serious? He smiled, that same calm, reassuring smile from the cafe. I don't say things I don't mean. As he handed her his card, she could barely breathe. The gold letters gleamed under the light. Richard Hayes, CEO, Hayes Enterprises. Walking home that night, her heart raced faster than her thoughts. She didn't know what scared her more, that this man could change her entire life, or that he already had. The following Monday, Emily stood in front of the tall glass building of Hayes Enterprises, her reflection staring back at her like she didn't belong there. Her hands were clammy, her stomach twisting in a mix of excitement and fear. What am I even doing here? She muttered to herself. The last time she'd been in a place this fancy, she was probably delivering coffee, not walking in as a writer. The receptionist greeted her with a bright smile. You must be Emily. Mr. Hayes has been expecting you. That single line hit her harder than she thought. He's been expecting me? She took a deep breath and followed the assistant through the sleek hallways, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The energy in the office was sharp, efficient, like everyone knew exactly what they were doing. And then there was her, clutching her notebook like it was a lifeline. When Richard's office door opened, she froze. He was standing by the window, city lights spilling around him like he belonged to another world entirely. But when he turned and saw her, his face softened instantly. Emily, you made it, he said, voice steady but warm. Yeah, she said awkwardly. Still not sure how, but I did. He laughed lightly, and that sound made her heart do something strange. You're here because you've got something real, Emily. Don't let this place make you forget that. Over the next few weeks, she worked under his creative team, crafting campaign ideas, editing drafts, and sitting in on meetings that made her head spin. Everyone seemed terrified of Richard. He had that quiet authority, the kind that didn't need to raise its voice to be respected. But around her, he was different, almost human. They'd share late nights at the office, sometimes just talking over takeout boxes. He'd ask about her stories, and she'd ask about his childhood, though he usually dodged those questions with a half smile and a maybe another time. Still, something was there, unspoken but heavy, the kind of connection that sneaks up on you when you least expect it. One night, as they were working on a last-minute presentation, the lights flickered from a passing storm. She laughed softly, remembering the cafe rainstorm that started it all. You know, she said, glancing at him, you never told me why you paid for my coffee that day. He looked at her for a long moment before replying, because you looked like you needed someone to believe in you. And honestly, I think I did too. The room went quiet, not awkward quiet, the kind that holds meaning where words aren't enough. But before Emily could respond, the door burst open. A woman in a sleek black dress stepped in, her heels clicking like gunshots. Richard, the board is waiting, she said sharply, her eyes narrowing when she saw Emily. And who's this? This is Emily, he said calmly. She's part of the team. The woman smirked, clearly unimpressed. I see. Another charity case, huh? Emily's cheeks burned. Before she could defend herself, Richard's tone shifted. Colder, sharper. Watch your words, Karen. She's earned her spot here. The woman scoffed and walked out, leaving tension hanging like smoke in the air. Emily tried to play it off, but Richard could see the hurt in her eyes. She's just noise, he said softly. Don't let people like that make you forget who you are. Emily nodded, but something inside her shifted. She was starting to see it, the cracks in his perfectly calm exterior, the weight behind his eyes. He wasn't just a CEO. He was a man carrying something heavy, something no one else noticed. And that realization scared her more than she wanted to admit, because she wasn't sure if she wanted to walk away from it or walk straight in. Richard, you look like you haven't slept in days, Emily said softly one late evening as she leaned on the doorframe of his office. The city outside was quiet, drenched in orange streetlight glow, and the only sound inside was the faint hum of his computer. His jacket was draped over the chair, sleeves rolled up, tie loose, the kind of sight that didn't match the polished CEO the world thought he was. He looked up, the dark circles under his eyes more visible under the harsh fluorescent lights. Didn't realize it was that obvious, he said with a tired smile. It is, she replied. You've been staring at that same file for an hour. Avi let out a short laugh, rubbing his temples. I guess you caught me. It's just this project. It's personal how? She asked, stepping closer. He hesitated, fingers tapping the desk like he was fighting with himself. My dad used to run a small auto shop before it went under. He lost everything trying to keep it alive. I watched him break his back working every day, and when I got older, I promised myself I'd never end up like that, desperate, chasing bills. But somewhere along the way, I became everything I swore I wouldn't. Emily's expression softened. You're not your dad, Richard. You built something huge. You've helped people. He looked at her then, really looked, like he was trying to see if she meant it. Maybe. But sometimes I think I lost more than I gained. The silence that followed was thick with things neither of them knew how to say. The walls between them were thinning, and for the first time, Emily wasn't just looking at her boss. She was looking at a man trying to hold himself together. A knock at the door broke the moment. A young woman peeked in. It was Carmen, the PR director, who clearly had a reputation for drama. Oh, I'm sorry, she said, her tone anything but apologetic. Didn't mean to interrupt your meeting. Emily straightened immediately, stepping back. Richard's expression hardened. What is it, Carmen? The press dinner's been moved up, she said sweetly, leaning on the door. You'll need a +1, of course, unless... Her eyes darted to Emily. You've already picked one? Richard stood, his calm voice carrying that CEO authority again. I'll figure it out. Thanks, Carmen. After she left, Emily tried to hide her discomfort. You don't have to explain anything, she said quickly. I know how rumors start. He sighed, shaking his head. I don't care about rumors, but I do care about people making you feel small. And I won't let that happen for a moment. The tension in the air felt almost electric. Neither of them moved, but everything between them did. Emily swallowed hard and whispered, Maybe you should go home. Rest for once, he smiled faintly. You sound like my conscience. Maybe someone has to be, she teased gently. He chuckled and grabbed his jacket. But before leaving, he paused. Emily, he said, his voice softer now, almost uncertain. Would you come to the dinner with me? As my guest, her eyes widened. Me? Richard, it's just dinner, he said quickly, though the tone in his voice betrayed that it wasn't just dinner. I could use someone real there. Everyone else just wants something from me. She hesitated, heart racing. Okay, but you're buying dessert? His grin, the first genuine one she'd seen in days, made her chest tighten. Deal. That night when Emily got home, she couldn't stop smiling. But what she didn't know was that Carmen had overheard their conversation. And by morning, half the office would know too. And while Emily was still trying to process what her answer to that dinner really meant, fate was already setting the stage for a moment that would change everything. A single night that would test not just Richard's guarded heart, but Emily's courage to stand by it. The evening of the charity dinner arrived wrapped in city lights and nervous anticipation. The ballroom glowed in gold and crystal, filled with people who measured worth in last names and designer labels. Richard stood near the entrance, dressed in a sharp black tux, scanning the crowd with his usual calm, until the elevator doors opened and Emily stepped out. She wasn't wearing the expensive gown Carmen had suggested earlier that week. Instead, she wore a simple navy dress, soft curls brushing her shoulders, her confidence shining brighter than anything she had on. For a second, the world tilted. Conversations blurred, champagne glasses froze midair, and all Richard could do was stare. "Wow," he murmured when she reached him. "You look incredible." Emily blushed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Thanks. You clean up pretty well yourself, Mr. CEO." He chuckled softly, offering his arm. "Then let's go impress a few snobs." The night began smoothly. They laughed, shared quiet jokes under the chandeliers, and for once, Richard looked like a man enjoying life instead of calculating it. Emily found herself drawn to his warmth, the way he relaxed when talking about his daughter, or how his eyes softened every time she teased him. But then came the moment that cracked the calm. Carmen approached the stage with a microphone, her red lips curling into a fake smile. "Before we begin," she said sweetly, "I just want to acknowledge our very own Richard Hale, the man of the hour, and his lovely companion for the evening." Her eyes flicked toward Emily. "Our very own assistant," the crowd murmured. Some laughed under their breath. Emily froze, her pulse thundering. Richard's jaw tightened, the vein in his neck visible. "That's enough, Carmen," he said, his voice low but deadly. "Oh, relax," she cooed. "It's just a little fun." Everyone's dying to know what she did to get invited here. Before she could finish, Richard stood. The microphone squealed as he took it from her hand. "You want to know what she did?" he said, voice steady but burning. "She reminded me what decency looks like. She showed up when others mocked me, stood by me when no one else had the nerve to. That's what she did." The room fell silent. Every whisper died. Emily's eyes widened, tears threatening to spill. He turned toward her. "Emily, I'm done pretending that I don't care what people think. I've spent years building walls to keep people out. But somehow you walked right through them." His voice cracked slightly, raw and real. "You showed me there's still goodness left in the world." Gasps rippled through the audience. Some smiled, others stared in disbelief, but Richard didn't care. He reached for Emily's hand and said softly, "If anyone here has a problem with that, they can deal with me." For a second, no one moved. Then slowly the room filled with scattered applause. Someone stood up, then another, until the hall thundered with claps and cheers. Carmen slinked away, her face pale with embarrassment. Emily, still stunned, whispered, "You didn't have to do that." Richard smiled faintly. "Yeah, I did." When the crowd faded and the music returned, he leaned closer and said, "So, dinner and dessert?" She laughed through her tears. "You're unbelievable." "Yeah," he said, eyes softening, "but you make me want to be better." Later that night, as they left the ballroom, hand in hand, the city stretched before them, quiet, alive, and full of promise. Emily looked up at him under the soft glow of the streetlights and said, "I think this might be the start of something real." He squeezed her hand gently, his voice almost a whisper. "It already is." And for the first time in a long time, the man who had everything but happiness finally found it. Not in boardrooms or bank accounts, but in the warmth of a woman who saw the man beneath the title. Sometimes love finds you in the most unexpected places, maybe in a small cafe, a quiet conversation, or a moment that changes everything. If this story touched your heart, make sure to thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story that stirs the soul. And before you leave, click on one of the videos on your screen, because every story we share holds another moment that might change the way you see love, family, and second chances.